Thank you, Jim. Thanks, guys. Jim kind of took us through structural maintenance, and I want to get into more of preventive care. It's going to be some of the things that we're going to do to protect the asphalt when it's in good condition and to spend a little less money going forward by spending a little bit each year. So the first picture here, I always kind of like to look around and see who's taking notes and figuring out if duct tape can actually fix this. My grandfather loves this. No problem. I'll just step up here. I was saying that my grandfather actually loves this picture, so I fight with him on it. The first thing that we want to talk about is crack sealing, and this is the process in which the cracks are actually cleaned and filled with some type of hot rubber material. It's the most cost-effective maintenance that you can perform. On a scale of asphalt, how much patching is, resurfacing, and all those things. This is about 40 to 50 cents per lineal foot, so cost-effective. It's going to be the best thing that you can do to actually save money in the long term.
What was that price again?
Anywhere 30 to 50 cents typically, and it's going to change depending on the amount that you're putting down, and some different things. We recommend it every year as part of a yearly maintenance plan. Cracks, they're going to pop up every year. Asphalt's actually designed to crack. Like Jim said, it's a live material. It's going to happen, so we want to get out there every year. Hopefully in the fall, the springtime, whatever works for you guys, and actually fill those cracks as they pop up. And what that's going to do is it's going to slow that water penetration down from getting into the base like you talked about and further destroying it. We always have an overband of material, and it's actually intentional. And for this reason, we say it's got a failure rate of about 15%. We're actually using kind of a small squeegee on the end of this machine, and it pumps the material down into the crack, but what's going to happen is it's going to leave a small little bit on top of it. And what that's going to do is it's going to seal that and keep the water from penetrating. But also, what you're going to find in the springtime is a lot of times you're going to go to the corner of the parking lot where your snow has been piled up, and you're going to see a lot of rubber sitting over there, and you're going to wonder, what am I doing every year? Because this rubber, at the end of the year, it's piled up in the corner. Is it effective? And that's actually okay. What happens is the snow blade will go over the top of that and will actually peel that up. But if you look at the crack, it's still going to be down inside there actually doing its job. Another reason we say it has a failure rate is because we always try to do a little bit better job. And sometimes the crack just isn't wide enough to actually accept the crack seal material. But we'll go out, our customer says, you missed some cracks, so we go back out there, we explain the process, but we'll also touch that up. But if the crack's not wide enough, and that's about 1/4 inch, so if the crack isn't wide enough, the material actually isn't penetrating inside there, and it's just going to peel right off the top for you. So if you see some rubber laying around your parking lot after it's been crack sealed, it's typically okay. If you see all of it, it's a different story, but some of it's okay. There's two different ways that we can do this. The first is a clean and fill, and it's exactly how it sounds. We simply clean it, and we fill it. That's just a compressed air, hot air lance. We want to get the vegetation out, the dirt. We want to create a reservoir for that material to sit down inside there and actually adhere to the sides of that crack. This is on a street, but it's the same process on your parking lot, your driveway. Anytime that you're going to do crack sealing, it's basically the same process. A second way that we do this is actually crack routing. And what we do is we use a mechanical machine to actually create a larger reservoir. Sometime on these cracks, we'll go from thin to large to almost non-existent. So by using a machine like this, we actually take a bit and create a solid line throughout that crack that's a consistent width. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow that hot rubber material to actually adhere to the sides of that crack all the way through and be even. So when that asphalt flexes and expands in the summertime and the wintertime, it's actually going to hold that material with it. And that's the whole point of crack seal, is to keep the material with the asphalt so it's moving instead of breaking and letting the material go down inside of it.
How much is that a lineal foot?
I'm sorry?
How much is that a lineal foot?
This gets up to typically 80 cents to $1 per foot. And a lot of times we want to use this. You don't have to use it all the time, but mostly recommended for properties with large vehicles, truck docks, because since we have that overband on top of the asphalt, when those semis come through and some of the larger trucks, they do that power steering move and that wheel spins, and what it does is it catches that rubber and rips it up. With this process, we don't have too much on top of the surface. Most of it's down inside that crack, and we don't have to worry about that. So again, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to last probably 3 to 4 times as long for you. And it's also the preferred method for new asphalt. you take a brand new parking lot, we've only got a couple cracks in it. We want to do the best repair that we can because the more water that we keep out of it, the longer that asphalt's going to last. This is going to allow us to do so. One more thing on the failure rate. A lot of times we have the crack seal, and you're going to notice that we've crack sealed over a crack, and you're going to come out in the springtime, and you're going to see that crack reemerge. And there's going to be rubber on both sides of it. Typically what that is the crack wasn't wide enough, so that material set on top of it and just split open just like the crack did. So it's actually, you know, they just did it when they shouldn't have, and now they're stuck explaining it in the springtime.
And then in that case, would you just come back with this machine, you know, rip out the rubber and widen it back out?
Well, that's one of the processes with routing is once we've crack sealed, we can't go back and actually mechanically route it. It's just simply, you know, trying to take that bit and putting it into rubber. It's going to end up tearing up the asphalt, it tears up the machine, and you just can't make any headway when actually you're trying to perform the service.
Okay.
So if you start that early, you know, you're reducing the cost because it's going to be more expensive, but you're going to have less cracks. And if you keep up with that as part of a yearly program, you know, with a new parking lot, it's actually going to save you a lot of money in the end of it. One more thing with the crack seal. A lot of times we have those alligator sections. You guys want those filled in as property managers and customers. We don't typically do that. What we do is we do a perimeter around that area, because what happens if we go through and we have that alligator section where there's cracks all the way through it, we're going to actually apply the rubber to that, and come in the fall time when we have snow on the ground, the snow plows are going to hit that rubber, and since it's all kind of spider web together and that asphalt's already loose from being cracked, it actually will peel it and leave a giant pothole wherever we crack sealed that. So, you know, it's kind of difficult to explain to a customer sometimes when they say, you know, it's crack seal, why aren't you crack sealing this area? It's the worst section, it's got all the cracks. Very specific reason behind it, it's going to do more damage in the long run. Seal coating, there's two different things for seal coating. We improve the aesthetics, and we also basically protect the asphalt and improve the lifespan of it. A couple benefits is we provide a wearing coat. You know, it's just like, that's like staining your deck or something. You know, we're going to be on it all the time. It's providing a wearing coat, so that coat, which is cheaper, is going to wear faster than the actual asphalt does. So it's, you know, it's a barrier in that sense. It's also a barrier against natural and man-made elements. Sun, UV rays, is the #1 killer of asphalt. As Jim talked about, it cooks that liquid AC out of it and that oxidizes the asphalt. So as soon as that happens, that starts to break down. So by seal coating it, we're allowing that sun, the tires, the rain, something, you know, all those things to eat at something rather than the asphalt, which costs a lot more money. And again, it slows the oxidation of the asphalt. Typical applications, there's only real two different ways you should see it done. And one is a squeegee spray coat. It's as simple as it sounds. We take squeegees with rubber blades that's cast across the asphalt. It's going to stay with the top of the stone, so it's going to fill in some of those low sections. Not real low, but on almost a microscopic level. If you look at it and you see those tiny little pockets, it's going to fill those in and create more of an even surface. And after that, we'll come back with a final spray coat and simply spray that over. That creates more of an even look. You know, it's kind of the cosmetic layer, but it's also adding more material to it. A different situation is simply 2-coat spray. We'll go around the parking lot, we'll edge everything, so we're not spraying seal coat across the concrete and landscaping and things like that, and then apply 2 different coats to it. Different applications. A lot of people try to use seal coat as a savior in the end of things, and sometimes it's just too late, sometimes it's recommended, so knowing when to seal coat and when not to is going to be your biggest help. Brand new parking lots, we always want to wait, typically about a year, maybe 2 years if you want to. When new asphalt's down, it's got a certain amount of cure time for that oil to come out of it, and if we seal coat over the top of that, it's actually going to trap that oil in there instead of allowing it to come out of it, and we're going to soften that asphalt. We've seal coated before over a parking lot that was a month old, and we actually had cranes on it, and those cranes started digging holes in the asphalt, and about 8-inch sections started popping out on it, simply from trapping that oil in there. So if you have a brand new parking lot, we want to do a squeegee coat and a spray coat, because we're going to fill those voids in. You know, the paver only keeps it so tight, so we're going to create that even look. If you just want to go out and improve the look of the parking lot, you really don't need to put 2 coats of a squeegee down. You just want to spray it, because you're just going to be, you know, spending money, spending more material when it's not really needed, because all you're trying to do is make it look black. You know, you've got a building, you're trying to get some tenants in, you're trying to improve the curb appeal. This is the best process for you. The lot is older, it's free of liabilities, but it has a rough surface. You know, it's in good shape, it's not really cracked, it doesn't have a lot of alligator sections, but it's just a little bit rough. The squeegee coat will actually help fill this in. You're going to put more material down, but you're going to create that look that you want in the end, instead of seeing it, you know, a little bit raveled and some of the stones and everything coming out. And if you seal coat every year, just stop it. You're wasting money. The best example I always have for this is a lot of times your grandfather's driveway. You go over, he's been seal coating it every single year. He gets excited in the spring. He gets the buckets from Menards, and in the end of it, you see all these tiny little cracks, really, really tiny. But it almost looks like a desert floor. And what that is seal coat has a certain amount of clay in it. And once we apply that and apply that and apply that, we build those layers of clay up. And when clay dries, it's just like the desert or anything else, it creates that crack look. So if you go out to a parking lot and you see just almost hairline cracks, but they're throughout the entire surface, it's probably just been seal coated too much. And, you know, putting over the top of it, you're just going to keep creating that look. You're not going to fix it. Moving on to lot marking, this is just the application of paint to a specific layout to form parking designs and miscellaneous indicators. It's pretty straightforward. Just a couple things to know about lot marking, though, is there's a couple different types of paint that you should be using, or your contractor should be. If you're just going out to restripe, it's a new parking lot, it's new asphalt, we like to use a solvent-based paint. It's got a heavier pigment in it, it's going to last a lot longer for you, it's going to stay a little bit brighter, a little bit longer. Unfortunately about lot marking, when you go out, we'll stripe it, and the next day it looks bright, it's vibrant, and within a week, not so much. It's just the tracking, you know, it's putting I guess it's putting a paint on the ground. You're letting cars drive over it, you're letting dirt blow on it, and that picks up that dirt. This paint will actually last a little bit longer and hold that look. When we actually seal coat, we want to use a water-based paint, though. Different types of pigments react with the seal coat, and what's going to happen is it'll burn, essentially. So you'll put a white paint down, about 20 minutes later you go back to look at it, it's going to be brown. You put a yellow paint down, a couple minutes later you go back and it's going to be green. So it actually burns the material. So if you've ever been out to a parking lot and your seal coater is using a type of paint that's turning a weird amount of color, they're using the wrong type of paint. The biggest thing with the solvent paint while we're on it is the drying time. We can actually go out, we can stripe a parking lot, within a matter of minutes it's dry, cars can drive on it. This is typically done overnight, so you can get in and just really knock them out, versus the water-based paint, which just depends on the humidity that day, the amount of sun, you're trying to get that water to evaporate out of it. Like I said, lot marking is pretty simple, but a couple different things for caution. One, letting it fade. You take on a big liability. You don't have the arrows the right way in the parking lot. People can't see the lines. You know, they're driving haphazardly around the parking lot. This will save you a lot of trouble, especially with the lawyers, by saying it was clearly evident. This was the drive aisle, this was the parking situation, and you can take those questions away. Something a lot of people don't know is the curbs. You know, at the front of the building, you always want to paint those curbs. You want it to look nice, so you want to do that every single year. Well, what you do is you actually build that paint up. You know, just like seal coat, how we build it up over the years. You build that paint up on that front curb, and you want to use a traction agent, such as a sand, a glass bead, something like that. Because if you don't, you're actually making that slick. So, you know, it's going to be a rainy day. Your people are going to pull in the parking lot. They're going to go run to the front of the building, and they're going to take that big step, and they're going to hit that curb, and just go right down. You know, I've pretty much once a year somebody in the industry gets sued over the curb striping because they want to do it every year. And lastly, ADA requirements. It's a lot tougher than it used to be, making sure that handicap requirements are met. So, you know, visit with your contractor, make sure that they're meeting your expectations. A lot of times things are grandfathered in. You can get away with doing a little bit, but not all of it. But talk about those things and figure out if you want to make sure you're 100% compliant, which is going to require these different things, or just kind of get a thought behind that. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I'm going to let Jason move on here.